this is Ray at Drop of Golden Tarot, and I thought I would do a VR to Candy's Soul and Soil, the Dating the Tarot 2020. If you haven't checked her out, I saw this VR originally on Simon at the Hermit's Caves, and went and checked out Candy's original video where she asked people if they wanted to VR to it, and thought she was delightful, so I clicked like and subscribe, and you can too for Candy. So the first thing that she asked was, what deck was your Cheapskate deck for the year? And I'm kind of, you'll see me looking over here because I'm looking at the prompts as I go. So who did you date just because they were cheap? And so the first deck I have there is my Cheapskate deck, which is the Spirit Halloween store that pops up here in the US and maybe in Canada too. I don't know where else they are at, but they pop up like a month before Halloween and then they disappear for the rest of the year. And so each year they have a tarot deck. It's always the same one, but this year I thought I would buy it. It was $7, and let me see if I can get the glare off there and let you see these cards, just a few of them. And so I thought, well, that's like cheap, even if it's not something that I jive with. It'll be kind of a novelty to have in my collection for that amount of money. So I got it, and it was missing a card. It had a double of one card and it was missing another. And so then I got on some Facebook groups and said, hey, does anybody else have this deck? Did anybody else have this issue? How did you figure it out? And somebody else had bought the deck and they were just using it for crafting. And so they said, I'll send you that missing card. And they did, but by the time it got to me, it was way past Halloween and I had already put the deck away. And so I actually haven't used it to see how it reads with. So next year, we'll talk about that one probably next year. The second deck on my list is the Slow Burner. So this is one that you weren't sure about when you were first meeting, but over time you suspect it's turning into love. And a lot of people will be like, you didn't know that that was going to turn into love? And I did not. I kind of resisted this deck, and it is, oh, and these decks are not in order, most of them. This is the Dark Mansion. Oh no, this is Darkwood, I'm sorry. Woohoo, mistake. So the Darkwood. So the Darkwood Tarot. I was kind of drawn to the artwork, but then, you know, everybody's so pretty and it looked so young. Maybe that was it. It looked so young. I thought, you know, you're not a young girl anymore. Like, you have to be more mature and stick with the mature decks. And so I kind of struggled with the idea of buying this. And I finally caved. And I started working with it and the guidebook. And I have to tell you, I'm pretty sure it's going to be love. It maybe already is. It like quickly, it went from that crush that I didn't want to admit I was having because I thought I was too old to have a crush, to getting it and succumbing. And yeah, there it is. So the third deck is the Blind Date. So this is the one that you didn't like look through all of the cards or like was it impulse buy or that thing. And so my blind date was the medicine cards. And that was, I was really wanting to look for an animal deck. And one that had lots of animals that maybe I felt like I could identify with. I wanted them to be, I wanted the author to be authentic, indigenous, if they were going to talk about animal magic, to be somebody who had the authority to do so and to teach me. And so this is that deck, and it's been sitting on my desk and I just haven't dived in yet. I've wanted to, I still want to, but I just, there's been so many new decks this year and they've come like all at once that, so this is going to stay on my desk and hopefully January, March, or January, March. Yeah, kind of maybe more March. January, February, I'll dig into this. So the fourth deck is supposed to be the deck that's your rebound deck. And I agree with Simon. It's not exactly what I call rebound. I think of rebound as like the person that you go find after you've broke up with the love of your life that you're not really serious about, but you think you are. You kind of just use them to heal with. Candy describes rebound deck as, let me see, the one you keep going to break up with, but keep getting pulled back together. And I'm going to use the Aquarian for this one. And I say this, you can see this deck is kind of old and it's a little thrashed. So the Aquarian Tarot was my first love. It was my first deck. It was gifted to me when I was 15 years old. And I got married in my very late 20s. And the deck disappeared. And then when the marriage disappeared, I looked and searched for this deck, and I finally found this very old used copy on eBay. And it's even, I don't know if you can see it, it's even stained and stuff. And it's the same backs as my original one. It didn't even come with a box anymore. The little white book is all beat up. It really could be my original deck that I had for 14 years before it left my home. And you know, I don't read with this deck very much anymore. Every once in a while I'll do some past work with it. It just seems appropriate, but I don't really read with it very much. But I just cannot seem to get rid of it. It's just too much history there. The fifth deck is our surprise love affair. The one that you thought would just be okay, but it was love at first sight and it took you by surprise. And I'm going to have to say that that is my White Sage Tarot. And the reason why, and I have the mini edition in a tin, the reason why this was a surprise for me is because of the pips. I love the otters. I have never been a person who bought a pip deck. I felt like I needed the pictures. Oh, look at that. I felt like I needed the pictures in order to be able to interpret the cards well, in order to kind of get the feelings that I needed to have. And so I stayed away from pip decks for a long time. And I finally bought one that was kind of more pippish, and it gave me the courage to buy this one. And I love this deck. This is, the minute I opened it up and I started reading with it, it read really well. I didn't have any problems with the pips. And I was like, oh, maybe I love you because you make me feel confident or feel like I can do something I didn't know I could do. But also, those otters and just the images on here is just, it's gorgeous. I love it. So that is my surprise love affair. The sixth deck is the Not My Type deck. And that is actually the Everyday Witch. I don't know. I looked at this, and this is another one I kind of resisted, because it seemed kind of kitschy to me, like, oh, like, they're in witch hats and, like, Wizard of Oz type stockings, like, I was like, oh, well, that's really not my aesthetic. You wouldn't know that by looking at me that I do tarot or have a witchcraft practice. Now, you would if you came into my home or my bedroom, but when I'm out in public, you wouldn't know. So that's never been my aesthetic, to look gothy or witchy or anything like that. So this was my, it's not my type of deck, but then I got it, and everybody's right. It reads beautifully. It is very Rider-Waite-Smith. It is clear in the meanings. The guidebook is wonderful. In fact, I went from going, it's not my type, to recommending it in Facebook groups as a first deck. And as I do that, I think, oh, this person's going to look at this deck and think it's not my type. But still, it's definitely a good first deck for people. So I keep turning my back to you. I'm so sorry. So the 7th deck I have is in the Dating Tarot 2020 from Candy at Soul and Spirit. No, Soul and Soil is the 7th, which is the I May Have to Delete Your Number deck. So this is, don't kill me, but Deviant Moon. So I know a lot of people said they didn't like the images, they weren't drawn to them, and then they got the deck and ended up being a great reader. I was kind of the opposite. I loved these images. I thought the artistry is wonderful. I still do. I have the big book. I love the big book. I went through the big book with each card. I journaled with it. And I actually may have liked the deck better had I not done that. But let me see if I can find, I should have probably found this before I started. But in this deck, just sometimes what I think of as what he has written down in his meanings, the things that he has depicted in the cards, is what I would consider them to be if they were reversed, not upright. And I don't read reversals, so I do read the kind of like, depending upon where it is in the spread, the question, the context, I will look at that like shadowy side, maybe I think all the cards have positive and negative aspects to them. It just depends upon where they land in the spread. So I keep all my cards upright and just read it however it feels right to me. But this card right here, the Two of Cups. And so in Patrick Flynns's book, he talks about this toxic relationship, and then after he pointed out, I can't unsee it. I can't unsee the bandages wrapped around her ankle, holding her there. I can't unsee his body language of him trying to get her away from the crowd and isolate her, and her not being able to break away from it. And even in his reversed meanings, it doesn't have a positive attribute. There's no positive attributes in his meaning to this card, and I really struggle with that. And there's a couple other cards in the deck that are like that, where there's like no positive attribute in a card that I would normally see as having very positives. And so I'm just struggling with the idea of even laying down the cards and reading with it. Like, what other card would have the meaning that I would normally assign the Two of Cups if in the creator's mind it didn't have that meaning? So, like, for me, the Lover's never been about love. It's been about choice, and the Two of Cups has been about that connection energy. So this is a card that I think I want to break up with, but then I love it, and so I don't want to break up with it. So it's still here. Number 8 is the deck that is your forever love. And she said, the purpose of this VR originally was so that the decks that don't make it onto your top 5 can still get a little love. And she wrote in her comments like, yeah, I know that I'm asking you who your love of your life is, and that'll probably also be in your favorites. And mine certainly is in my favorites too. Oh, sorry, you can probably hear a dog barking in the background. So anybody who has seen my Instagram account will not be surprised by this. It is the Goliath, which is the deck that I'm going to consider the love of my life. It is, so before I got this deck, I did not have any animal decks at all. I wasn't interested in an animal-based deck. I didn't find the desire to read with an animal-based deck. And then I saw a walkthrough on Lisa's Supportive Tarot for an animal-based deck. Oh, I think somebody just got home. So, and then when I saw that walkthrough, she wasn't even done with it, and I had to go and buy the deck. And since then, like, I worked with it, I did walkthroughs with it, or I did deep work with it, journaling with it, read the guidebook cover to cover. And then I tried to put it away to work with other decks that came into my collection, and I'd be working with another deck, and then I'd be like, oh, well, I'm going to do this reading, and I'm going to pull back out the old Goliath. And so I'd pull back out, and I'd start working with it again, and I'd be like, oh, I'm supposed to be working with this other deck and getting to know this other deck. So I'd put it away, and then before you knew, it was back out and back on my Instagram, and I was doing another spread with it or asking it a question, and yeah, I feel like it's intuitive and readable, and I'm probably showing you more cards in this deck than I do any of the other ones because I do love it so much. I just connected with it instantly, and felt like the feelings that I got from the images were exactly what they meant, and that I didn't need a guidebook at all, although I did read the guidebook because I love that too. And it's 78 tarot, and then there is, I don't even know how many like extra cards that you can use as an oracle, or you can shuffle them in. And then there's a yes and no card that you can use for pendulum work if you want to. So it was just, oh, this Hermit card. Just, I love this deck. So that is my Forever Love deck. Number 9 is the Stormy Off and On Again. It's a deck that you love, but you just cannot work with every day. And this is not going to be a surprise for a lot of people. It's the Mary L. This should be pre-ordered because I'm actually doing my deep dive with the Mary L right now. So I'm going to try to keep it in order as I go through. I love this deck. I saw walkthroughs of it, and I wanted it, and then I knew there was a new edition coming out, and I didn't have this first edition, and I waited for the new edition to come out, and then they changed a few of the cards, and my daughter bought the first edition, or the second edition, and I looked at it, and I didn't like the new replacement cards as well. I love the old High Priestess and the old Hierophant cards. So then I got online and started looking for the deck in Facebook groups, and finally found it. And I love it. I think it's wonderful, but I think it's so intense. It's not a deck that I would work with every day. So it's my kind of on again, off again when I need that intense. Although I am working with it every day just to study with it right now. So that's the Mary L. Deck number 9. So I only have one more, and you guys are going to be able to see this one easily. And this is the Enchanted Forest, and this is my Friends with Benefits date. This is the one that I can run to without any commitment to it. I don't feel like, let me see if I can get the glare off of there. It's just, maybe, there we go. Maybe. It is a deck that I don't feel like I really need to do a deep dive with. Guidebook is great, but I feel like I can just pick it up and read it, even though like the suits are renamed and the court cards are renamed. I think that they're easily understandable. This deck reminds me of the books that I read in the 1980s. It reminds me of, I want to say, Kingdom for Sale by Terry. You guys are probably yelling at me. Oh, I can't remember. It reminds me of those. It reminds me of Sword of Shannara by Terry Brooks. It reminds me of those things. It reminds me of playing Dungeons and Dragons. It is just very much like, I can go to it anytime I need a reading, but I don't feel like I have to spend a lot of time with it in order to be able to get good things out of it. So those are my tarot dating the tarot 2020. I've been kind of looking at everybody's hashtags on this and watching them. I think it's a really fun one to watch. So if you have done one, please link it below. Please put it in the comments. I would love to come and watch yours. And if you have liked this video, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. I'm not regular. I'm just doing this for fun right now. So talk to me. That's what I'm hoping for in these videos, is just to feel like a part of the community. So I hope that you have a good day. Stay safe and stay true to yourself. Bye-bye.